Alternate story timelines serve as a professional tool for exploring divergent narrative paths in your story. They allow you to examine different scenarios and outcomes while maintaining the integrity of your main narrative. Think of them as parallel story paths that branch from your primary timeline at specific points. And, unlike multiverses, alternate timelines branch directly from the main story's timeline. Think of the alternate timeline like this. What if the hero failed to save their friend in Chapter 3? And think of a multiverse like this. What if the hero was actually the villain from the very beginning? We'll discuss multiverses in more detail in a later video. For now, I just wanted you to briefly understand the difference between the two. Now, before we continue with creating alternate timelines, you need to understand some key parameters. You're limited to just 3 alternate timelines per story, and a main timeline must exist before you can create an alternate timeline. If you want to create more than 3 alternate timelines, consider creating multiverses instead. Speaking of multiverses, alternate timelines and multiverses cannot coexist in the same project. So, if you have a multiverse set up in your project, you'll have to delete the multiverse if you want to create an alternate timeline. Finally, all alternate events must derive from existing main timeline events. To create an alternate timeline, navigate to the Alternate Timelines section in your workspace where you'll find your main timeline displayed. Select Create Alternate Timeline to begin the process. You'll need to provide 3 essential pieces of information. A title that clearly identifies this alternate version. A description that outlines how this timeline differs from the main story. And a divergence point that marks where this timeline branches from the original narrative. After establishing your alternate timeline, you can begin adding events. Just click the pencil button for the alternate timeline you want to add events to, right here. Now, to add events, click the Add Event button to choose from your main timeline's existing events. For each event you select, you'll need to specify 3 key elements. First, provide a divergence description detailing exactly how this event differs in the alternate timeline. Next, outline the alternate context, explaining the broader implications of these changes. And finally, assign an impact level from 1 to 100, indicating the significance of these changes. The impact scale breaks down like this. 1 through 30 represents minor changes with limited effects. 31 through 70 indicates moderate changes affecting multiple events. And 71 through 100 signifies major changes with widespread story implications. Now, something you should remember when adding events to your alternate timeline. Only events that have been added to the main timeline will show in your alternate timeline list of options. So if you don't see a particular event you created that you want to add to your alternate timeline, check the main timeline to ensure you've added that particular event to the main timeline. To edit your alternate timeline, access the timeline settings through the gear icon to modify your timeline's core elements. Here you can edit the title, update the description, adjust the divergence point, or remove the timeline entirely if necessary. When editing events, use the Edit button to refine your divergence descriptions, alternate contexts, or impact levels as your story develops. Just some things of note I want to tell you about. When developing alternate timelines, consider the causality of your changes. Each modification potentially creates ripple effects throughout your narrative. Your timeline name should be descriptive and professional, clearly indicating the nature of the divergence or the central what-if premise being explored. The system maintains separation between your main timeline and alternate versions. While events in alternate timelines must be based on main timeline events, changes in alternate timelines don't affect your primary narrative. This allows for safe exploration of different narrative possibilities while preserving your core story. Approach alternate timeline creation methodically. Start with significant events that might have different outcomes, then consider the logical consequences of these changes. Use the impact scale thoughtfully to track how significantly each change affects your overall narrative. Remember that alternate timelines serve as a professional tool for narrative exploration. They provide a structured way to examine different story possibilities while maintaining organization and clarity in your writing process. Use them deliberately to enhance your story's development and explore meaningful narrative alternatives.